Two murder investigations from the case files of Lt.Joe Kenda. First, a quiet evening is pierced by gunfire.
Please, Don.
He's been shot in the back and it exited his chest.
Lieutenant Kenda is on the hunt for a faceless gunman with a mysterious motive.
Our question is, why did this happen?
Did he make somebody mad? Was he at the wrong place at the wrong time?
That name hit me like a slap in the face.
You don't come out, we're coming in.
Then, an attempt to settle a score turns fatal.
Do I know you? Whoa!
That moment, I was very upset, pissed off.
Jealousy and rage and possession. It's a pretty bad cocktail.
Murder's like the economy. It goes up and down. You have good years, bad years. Something I've always found interesting, when murder is down somewhere, it's down everywhere. It's almost as if there is a national biorhythm. But could I explain that? No. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim.
If you kill, I will find you.
Clyde Williams and Barry Loggins were driving home after a 4th of July get-together. It was a nice summer night. They had the windows down.
July 4th in Colorado Springs area, there's a lot of people out celebrating early, celebrating late, running fireworks all the time.
Bro, I'm so psyched about this weekend. You're going to Bobby's party, right? For sure. Nice. Man, them Roman candles he got, gonna be awesome. Dude, what the hell is this guy doing? Huh. Don, help me. Please. Please. Joe, what happened, man? Oh, my God. What are we gonna do?
They see that he's been shot. This guy is in bad shape. He's bleeding profusely, and he subsequently loses consciousness.
Oh, no, dude. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Somebody help. Call 911 now.
Is he okay?
Call 911.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Across town, the Kenda's neighbors are also feeling the holiday spirit.
Joe, make it stop. This is ridiculous.
What if I could, Kat?
The dog is barking and everybody's up in my house. Well, we certainly know who that is at 2:15 in the morning.
It's Kenda. Potter and San Miguel. I'll be right there.
Sorry, Kat.
Be safe, honey.
I will.
Normally, I'd bury my face in my pillow at 2 in the morning, but on this night, I would take any excuse to escape that racket.
"30 minutes later, Kenda steps out onto East San Miguel.
Hey, Mike, so what do we got?
The Vic is 27-year-old Donald Zampa, shot once in the back. He's currently at Memorial Hospital in critical condition.
Donald Zampa is 27 years old. He's only been in Colorado Springs for a few months, and he is a maintenance worker at a local motel.
Any witnesses?
The two guys that found him didn't see anything. And we are currently canvassing the neighborhood as we speak.
Is this guy right here, huh?
Right there.
The crime scene itself is bloodstained, of course, and there's some medical waste laying around, and also the shirt and sport coat worn by the victim. It is unusual to find someone wearing a sport coat and tie in this neighborhood at 2:30 in the morning. So where did he come from, And where was he going to, and what interrupted that?
Now, the slug is over here. CSI said it looks like 38.
So it went right through him, huh?
Yeah.
He's been shot in the back, and it exited his chest.
Could have been a robbery. Did you find any money on him?
You know, I thought the same thing, except that his wallet's still in his pants right there, with 20 bucks still in it.
Huh.
Well, that's strange. If this is a robbery, why wouldn't they have taken his wallet?
It could be an intentional assault against Donald Zampa for some reason, some perceived wrong he's committed against someone, some enemy of his. At this point, we have many more questions than we have answers.
Hey, Sergeant. Got the kid called in the shooting if you want to speak to him.
Sure, where is it?
It's right down here.
Chris Powell is a white male, about 18 years old, kind of small in stature.
Can you tell us what you're doing out here tonight?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't out. I was at my buddy's place down the street.
What were you doing there?
I'm staying there. I came from Ohio, so I'm kind of figuring out the job situation. You know, it's really hard these days.
Yeah, I understand. But tonight, how'd you end up calling the police?
He tells us that he hears a gunshot. He looks out, he sees the victim down and sees two other people running up to him to help.
So I figured the best thing to do was call you guys.
So you didn't see the shooter or anyone suspicious?
No, sir. No, sir.
You look extremely nervous, Mr. Powell. Is there more to this story that you're not telling us?
Is everything all right, Chris?
Yeah, I'm fine. It was just crazy to see, you know? That's all. Is that guy gonna be okay?
We don't know. Thank you.
He was awfully nervous.
Sure was.
Here's an 18-year-old, probably has never seen somebody shot. He may not be hiding anything, but we, being cops, are gonna question them.
Hey, Sergeant. We just got word from the hospital. The victim's conscious.
Okay, good. I'm gonna take a ride over to Memorial. I want you to go ahead and supervise the rest of the canvas. I'll be right back.
You got it.
This is good for us. There might be something he could tell us that'll help clear up this matter.
Excuse me, can I have a minute with him?
Sure. Need to make it quick. He's not out of the woods yet. We're prepping him for another surgery.
This may be the last opportunity for Donald Zampa to say anything, because if he doesn't survive the surgery, then the only statement we're going to get is what we're going to get right now.
Donald, I'm Sergeant Kenda. How you feeling?
I've been better.
I'm sure. Listen, I need you to remember everything you possibly can about what happened tonight.
Okay. I went to Graham's for a drink and to watch the game.
Graham's was more of a neighborhood bar where people hung out. People knew each other, and Donald was a regular customer.
He tells us that he left the bar and he was walking home. As he's walking, he hears somebody yell at him.
Don't turn around.
Whoa, man.
And he feels what he believes to be a gun pushed into his back.
Keep your hands up and get on your knees.
Come on, man. Easy. I had no idea what was happening, so I just did whatever the guy told me. But then as soon as I knelt down, I heard this loud crack and my chest got hot. Then everything went numb and I couldn't move.
So, of course, we asked Donald, do you have enemies? Is there somebody out to get you? He said, oh, no, I don't make enemies. I make friends. So that eliminates the possibility of most likely a known person to him. This is someone that doesn't know him at all.
Sergeant, it's time to head out.
All right, just one more question. Is there anything at all you can remember about this guy?
Yeah, actually. He had an accent, maybe like a Hispanic accent.
All right, well, thank you.
Sorry, Kenda.
I understand.
Kenda heads back to the crime scene with troubles on his mind.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do we know? Is he an Hispanic male? Probably. Does he know Donald Zampa? Probably not. We have very little to go on here, very little indeed.
Mike?
Hey, Kenda. You get anything at the hospital?
No, I didn't get much. It says the shooter sounds Hispanic.
That's funny. We got a witness who says he saw the shooter, thinks he looks Hispanic.
Really?
Well, no. Maybe that's our guy. This is the first interesting thing I've heard tonight. We're working on the shooting of 27-year-old Donald Zampa. All we know is his shooter sounded Hispanic. But now we have a witness who claims to have seen the shooter. Our witness is Edward Esterly. He's living immediately adjacent to the scene.
We were told you saw something tonight?
He reports that he has been up and down during the night because in the last several days, they've been having problems in this neighborhood with break-ins of cars.
When I looked out the window to check on my car, I saw this Hispanic guy looking into it. But when I got outside, the guy was gone. And then I heard the gunshot, and I got the hell out of there.
So could that mean that this Hispanic male was looking to steal something out of cars? And at that moment, he notices Mr. Zampa strolling down the street. And does he decide he needs to remove a potential witness?
Don't turn around. Keep your hands up and get on your knees.
What this guy looked like?
He was definitely Hispanic, I guess 25 to 30 years old.
You remember what he was wearing?
Yeah, he had on this weird-looking Hawaiian shirt.
Hawaiian shirt.
Is this guy possibly the suspect? We don't know, but that's where we're headed at this point.
Hey, Sarge. Hey, we still got a guy matching that description.
Where is he?
He's in the cruiser.
Thanks for your help.
Well, could this be our mysterious man?
Step out.
Tell us your name.
Miguel Diaz.
He does not have a Hispanic accent. He has no discernible accent whatsoever.
That really kind of blows our theory out of the water, but we still look into him.
So what were you doing out here tonight, Miguel?
I was on my way home, and I heard a couple guys shout that someone got shot. Saw the guy lying on the street, so I ran off, found a payphone, called 911.
You check on that for us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we got some reports of a guy in a Hawaiian shirt peering into vehicles. Can you tell me about that?
I just really like cars. Checks out.
We were able to confirm that he had called 911 to report this crime. So his story is holding true. Maybe he's a BMV suspect and not a murder suspect.
Okay, Miguel. You're free to go. Just make sure we get his name to burglary with him.
You got it.
So we're still at the beginning. Who confronted Donald Zampa? It wasn't Miguel. Then who was it?
Over the next few days, no new leads materialize.
Everyone we've encountered so far who could be, might be the guy is not the guy. The only good news is Zampa continues to live.
But an unexpected tip is about to send the case in a whole new direction.
Sir, there's a call for you. Someone from Cincinnati. Want to talk about the Zampa case?
Cincinnati? Which line?
2.
It is unusual to get a call from another state about a case that's only a few days old in your city. That is a real indicator that whoever is on the other end of that phone has some direct knowledge.
Sergeant Kenda, who am I speaking to?
Hello, sir. Yes, my name's Charles Norton. I'm calling because my stepson has something he needs to talk to you about regarding the shooting the other night.
And who's your stepson?
His name is Chris Powell.
Chris Powell, huh?
That name hit me like a slap in the face. You mean the nervous little kid that was at the crime scene?
Hello?
We were suspicious at the time that Mr. Powell knew more than he was saying, and we were right. So the phone rings, and it's a call from Cincinnati, Ohio, and it is a wealth of information.
Chris is Sergeant Kenda. You remember me?
Yes?
And you have something you need to tell me?
Christopher.
You can hear in the background his stepfather basically saying, you either tell the truth or you're out on your ear and you have no place to go.
I didn't tell you the whole story.
I didn't think so, Christopher, so here is your second chance to be truthful.
The other night, when I said I was at home, I was actually headed home with a friend of mine.
He identifies his friend as Rodney McFarland. He's 21 years old.
Mr. McFarland, he's a white guy?
Yes, sir.
We're kind of questioning this because we're looking for Hispanic male.
All right, so what happened?
Well, Rodney was driving. No. What's wrong, man? And as soon as we pulled up on the San Miguel, the car stalled. Oh, no, come on, you piece of crap.
Rodney's upset because he didn't have any money to fix this car to make it run. And they both see this guy coming toward them on the sidewalk, wearing a suit and tie, and he's obviously drunk.
Look at this fool.
Rodney turns to Powell and says, I'm gonna get this guy. I'm gonna rob him and take his money.
Oh, you can't just rob the guy, you know? What if you get caught, huh? Don't worry. This guy's my voice. And he told me he was gonna speak in a Hispanic accent, so the guy wouldn't be able to identify him.
Chris Powell's explanation for the accent gives newfound credibility to his story.
The only person who knew that was the victim, and the only way you could know it is if you were standing there like you said you were. I absolutely believe Mr. Powell has come forward, finally, with the truth.
All right, so what happened next?
Well, he ran up to the guy. I heard a bang, and I just started running. You know, now listen, I tried to do the right thing, you know, by calling the police. It's just that I got a little scared afterwards. So, I'm back here with my folks in Cincinnati.
Chris wanted to do the right thing, and he maybe needed that extra support from his family to come forward and give that information.
Despite Chris Powell's story, there's still one detail that doesn't add up.
Do you know why Rodney shot the victim instead of taking his money?
I don't know. I couldn't even believe he did it.
So you know where the gun is?
Yeah. He told me he keeps it in this, like, big case for cassettes. It's probably in his room somewhere.
Where's Rodney live?
We're able to obtain a warrant for the arrest of Rodney, and we go to that residence in an effort to execute that warrant.
You make an assumption that Rodney is armed and he's going to resist, so you approach guns drawn.
Wait, hey.
We're looking for Rodney McFarland.
My brother? He ain't here.
You sure about that? Harboring a fugitive's a felony.
Mr. McFarland, where is your brother?
If Joe Kenda tells you you're going to tell me where Rodney is, you're going to tell him where Rodney is.
He's in the back.
Step aside.
This is a very intense and high-risk operation at this point because he could be on the other side of the door just waiting for us to come in.
Hey! This is the police! Come out with your hands where we can see them! If you don't come out, we're coming in!
And you won't like what happens next when we come in.
Let me see your hands!
I didn't mean to.
Go ahead and cuff him.
Rodney doesn't want to engage. He is just frightened.
Turn around.
Where's he going, Rodney?
I don't know. I want a lawyer.
All right, get him out of here.
Go.
Fine, that is your constitutional right, Mr. McFarland. But right now, you're going to jail.
Let's find that gun.
We do find the gun in a cassette case, just as it was described.
This looks like a 38.
Well, that's the one. Let's bag and get the hell out of here.
Although Rodney McFarland refuses to talk, ballistics testing on the gun does all the talking Kenda needs.
The gun is determined to be the weapon that fired the shot that entered and exited Mr. Zompa, and further, the weapon is defective. It would easily fire without touching the trigger.
It's a defective piece of crap, is really what it comes down to. And if you think about our case, it could very well be just that. The defective gun caused this to be a shooting as opposed to just a robbery.
Evidence of a faulty gun gives Kenda a much better understanding of how events unfolded the night Zompa was shot.
Damn it. Just try turning it back on. Look, it ain't gonna work. The hell am I gonna get the money to fix this damn thing?
He's complaining that this thing is nickel and diming him to death.
And Mr. Zompa comes walking down the street in his coat and tie, and looks like he might have a few dollars on his person. McFarland has no knowledge of who Donald Zompa is or cares. He is a victim of opportunity.
Look at what he's wearing. He's definitely got some cash. Hey, whoa, what the hell, man? What are you doing? Don't worry. This guy's my voice. Wait, Rod, stop. Don't turn around. Whoa.
And Rodney McFarland is not Hispanic by any stretch of the imagination, but he used that accent to throw off the victim.
Keep your hands up and get on your knees. Come on, man. Okay. Now give me
It's an accidental discharge. McFarland is shocked that the gun goes off.
God, help me. Please.
No robbery is attempted. Now it's run away.
It wasn't his intent. It was an accident, but it was an accident committed in the course of a criminal episode, which still makes it a crime.
Rodney McFarland pleads guilty to attempted aggravated robbery and is sentenced to 10 years in prison. Chris Powell is cleared of all charges.
There is a happy ending to this story, because even though Donald had all these cards stacked against him, he survived. He went on to fully recover and happily marry and have children and grandchildren. That would give you a whole new perspective on life, I think.
Armed robbery is one of the only violent crimes where the victims are selected at random. In the case of Donald Zompa, what was his crime? Being in the wrong place at precisely the wrong moment. He's just a very lucky guy. He lived through it. Many don't.
It's getting late, and delivery man Kirk Farrell is making his last stop of the night.
Kirk Farrell is a convenience store delivery man. He goes in late nights to multiple stores, takes out the old products, bring in new products, and he hears two cars pull up.
Hey!
There's a sound of a disturbance, people yelling.
Whoa, hey, dude, chill.
The voices are getting more raised and the situation is getting more tense. And all of a sudden, he hears a shot.
Stop.
He starts to take cover behind his truck. And at that time, he hears a second gunshot.
I'm sure he was scared and very confused. It's not like he can just call 911. He's gonna have to go back into the store to do that.
Within the hour, Lt.Joe Kenda pulls up to the scene of the city's 23rd homicide of the year.
In 1991, we had an exceptionally high number of homicides for the size of city at that time. This particular case was one short of a record of 24 set in 1974.
Hey, Lieutenant. Hey, Gary. So what we got? We got one shooting victim, 21-year-old Todd Iverson. Kid was rushed to the hospital, but pronounced DOA. Any witnesses? Got a couple, actually, including the shooter. He's already in custody, and so's his gun. Really? Yeah, we got his friend over here in this cruiser.
It appears we have a major step up. We have the shooter, and we have the weapon.
All right, let's take a look at the scene.
We have a puddle of blood on the sidewalk in front of the main window of the store, which is apparently where this victim collapsed.
Toilet paper, huh? Yeah, I got a T-shirt here, too. Guy must have been hemorrhaging pretty bad.
Most likely, all of these items were used to stop the bleeding on the victim before medical arrived.
I got blood drops.
There is a pattern of blood moving toward the two cars in the lot.
Nice cars. Yeah, our victim was a passenger in this car with his buddy. And our suspect was driving this car with a friend of his. All right, I'm gonna take a look in the victim's car. Why don't you take the suspects? You got it.
So you have two sports cars where speed and power are important. It speaks to the personality of the owner. Looking at the interior of the car, there's no evidentiary value, nothing covered in blood. It's most likely then that our victim is shot outside of his car.
Hey, Lieutenant, come take a look at this. Huh.
In the trunk, we find 41 expended casings neatly placed into an ammunition box.
What's the shooter's name? Scott Sneed. Well, Mr. Sneed obviously has experience with a gun.
It is not uncommon for people who routinely shoot. They recover their expended casings for purposes of reload.
Check this out. Kid's on the Olympic Development Shooting Team. No kidding.
So Scott Sneed has an unusual skill in that he is a very good marksman. And he's involved in kind of a pre-Olympic program here.
This kid's probably a better shot than all of us. Yeah.
By the time they come out of that training program, they are scary good shots. Their rate of accuracy is just incredible.
So, Mr. Sneed is very good with a gun. If he is going to shoot you, he is going to kill you. And Mr. Iverson has discovered that the hard way.
Let's go see what he has to say.
My first impression of Mr. Sneed is he's a scrawny little kid. His identification says he's 18 years old. He looks like he's 12.
What were you and your buddy up to tonight?
Well, I mean, we were just out for a late movie, and we got hungry, and we knew that this was going to be the only place that was open.
He says they were just going to run in, grab some food, and head on home.
Man, I'm starving.
Me too.
Hey. That's a good... Yeah, what? Do I know? Whoa, hey, chill, bro. What's your problem? As soon as I opened this car door, this guy just rushed me out of nowhere. I had no choice. I had to defend myself.
Okay, do you know Todd Iverson? I mean, why would he come at you like that?
I've got no clue. I've never seen that guy before in my life.
Okay.
The mere fact that Mr. Sneed reports that he doesn't even know this guy leaves an enormous shadow of doubt in his claim of self-defense. It is not common for perfect strangers to violently assault someone they don't know upon first contact.
Kenda wonders if Scott Sneed is trying to flip the script.
People shoot people deliberately and try to call self-defense. They lie about it.
Take him down to the station.
Sir. Wait, am I going to jail for this?
I'll be down to talk to you later.
I didn't mean to hurt the guy, I swear, okay?
Why is it that Mr. Iverson is threatening Mr. Sneed if Mr. Sneed says he doesn't know Mr. Iverson? There has to be motivation. Somebody has to believe you're their enemy.
You want to talk to the kid who was in the car with Scott? No, let's send him down to the station. I'll talk to him later. He's probably just going to back up his friend's story anyhow. I want to talk to the kid that was in the victim's car.
Kenda is hoping Todd Iverson's friend can shed some light on what the issue between Scott and Todd was all about.
So what's your name, son?
Joe Fleming.
How old are you?
I'm 17. How's Todd?
Well, I'm sorry to say he's not going to make it.
When I found out Todd died, it was a shock. Just couldn't believe it. It was unreal at that point.
And I know this is difficult. Would you tell us how you knew Todd?
Yeah, grew up together.
I met Todd in the neighborhood because I saw him riding by on a nice BMX bike. So I jumped on my bike and went out and got to talking from there and just hit it off.
But after Todd graduated, he moved to Arizona for trade school.
So what was he doing here now?
Just visiting. He got into town a few days ago. Tonight we were just celebrating him being home.
We're all pretty excited to get all back together again and hang out. Our group of friends were just real tight.
Tonight was awesome, man. I really missed you guys.
We missed you too. I told Bob I was gonna convince you to stay for good this time.
You can try. Hey, man, pull over right here. Let's get more beer.
Todd's the liquor source. He's 21. He can buy alcohol.
When we pulled in, I recognized the car in front of us. Hey, that's Sneed's car.
Oh, really? Let's get him.
I'm hungry, man.
Me too.
But that movie was really good. Yeah? Do I even know you? Oh, hey, chill out, bro. What's you? Hey, asshole.
Todd did throw a punch at Scott, but missed. Didn't hit him.
So what was the deal between Todd and Scott?
Todd?
Yeah, why did Todd hate Scott?
Todd, he doesn't even know Scott. I'm the one who hates Scott.
So we are thinking random act of violence doesn't make any sense. Well, now it makes sense. Now it makes perfect sense. We're investigating the death of 21-year-old Todd Iverson. We were skeptical when our suspect, Scott Sneed, said he didn't know Mr. Iverson, but maybe he really didn't know him. We need to rethink that.
So, Joe, you're the one who has a problem with Scott. What's it over?
Well, his girlfriend, Nikki, is best friends with my girlfriend, but he's no good to her.
Joe is not at all keen on how Scott treats his girlfriend.
The other night, he had Nikki crying, and my girlfriend calls him to tell him off.
My girlfriend was arguing with him over the phone, back and forth, and that's when I heard the threats.
He said he would kick my girlfriend's ass if she came between him and Nikki. I would have knocked him out had he said that in front of me.
Scott made me mad. I really didn't care for the way he treated his girlfriend and the way he was talking to mine.
At the root of all of this is the normal high school drama that goes on between boys and girls. It was nothing. Perception, believed slight, perceived bad behavior, all that sort of thing. That's all.
So if Scott's problem's with you, why did Todd go after him?
I mean, I told Todd about Scott and all that he had done. And I guess he had had a few beers.
Todd understood that Joe didn't like Scott. And he's probably the leader of this little clique and probably the enforcer should something go wrong.
He was jumping out to protect my honor over something that I was pissed about.
So what happened when Todd got out of the car?
Todd took a swing at Scott, and I got out to defuse the situation.
At that point, Scott had already pulled out a handgun.
Hey, back off, bro.
Whoa! Dude, come on, let's go. Let's forget about it.
He fired a shot, went between us, which, you know, I backed off from there. I told Todd, come on, let's not do this. But Todd stayed there.
I'm walking away. Next thing I know, I hear another gunshot. And now Todd's covered in blood.
At that moment, I was very upset. Did not have a reason to pull out a gun. Worst thing that probably would have happened that night was a little fight.
I understand how you feel. Thanks for your cooperation. Sorry about your friend.
Joe Fleming's story is eye-opening and ultimately lends credence to Scott Sneed's claim of self-defense.
Mr. Iverson is much bigger than Mr. Sneed. His size alone would strike fear into the heart of an 18-year-old kid.
However, there is still one issue keeping Kenda on the fence.
Now, a marksman like Scott's going to hit exactly what he aims for. And he shot him dead. I know. I think he would have shot him in a non-lethal area. And you know what? Maybe he did.
Where is this victim shot? It's a demonstration of intent.
As the sun rises, Kenda heads to the morgue in search of some answers.
So the bullet perforated his right lung. He died relatively quickly.
Okay, where was the entrance wound?
Well, that's what's interesting. The bullet entered at his right shoulder, hit the clavicle, ricocheted downward into the lung. See right here where it fractured the clavicle?
Yeah, that makes all the difference.
The shooter, in this case, a competitive, trained shooter, can make that bullet go anywhere. And yet he selects the upper right shoulder. It is mere accident that the bullet happened to strike the clavicle and ricochet, lacerating the lung and killing the guy. Had that round been a half-inch lower or a half-inch higher, it would have been an entry-exit gunshot wound, treatable with the Band-Aids.
So Scott was intentionally trying not to kill him. All right, thanks, Doc.
Yeah, good luck, man.
Kenda now wants to talk with Scott to see if his story does in fact line up with what he's just learned.
I want to talk to Scott some more about precisely what he did when he decided to level that weapon at his opponent. That's the key to this case. That's the key.
How you doing, Scott?
Not so good. That guy died?
Yeah, he did. Scott, do you know where you shot Todd?
Well, I was aiming for his shoulder, but I mean, if he died, then... What, did I miss? I mean, it's like I told you before, I didn't mean to kill anybody, I swear.
I believe you, Scott. And no, you didn't miss.
He aims for a non-vital area. He hits what he's shooting at, but more importantly, he only fires one shot. He's not out of control. He's not emptying the gun into this guy. He is trying to stop his advance.
At this point, Kenda has a clear picture of what happened that night.
Two cars, by fate, by karma, by whatever means, show up in the same place at the same time. Mr. Iverson, at this point in his life, had enough alcohol in him to provide him with a motive to demonstrate his machismo. Oh, yeah? That's the guy that did that? Well, I'm going to teach that boy a lesson.
Hey! Help you?
Todd tries to strike you. He actually misses.
Hey, chill out, bro. What's your problem? Hey, asshole. You want some Todd, man. Get off me, bro. Hey, back up, bro. Hey, what are you gonna do with that, huh? What are you gonna do? Back up!
Scott, in fear of his own personal safety, fires a warning shot to try to tell Todd to back off and stop.
Mr. Iverson, the victim, ignores. He continues his behavior.
Back up, man. Just forget about it. He is a bitch. He's not gonna shoot. I'm telling you, stop!
Mr. Sneed pulls up that gun and puts one in his right shoulder. It hits a bone and it ricochets exactly the wrong direction and cuts his lung in half and kills him.
He didn't give me a choice, man. He didn't give me a choice, man. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Come on, man. Come on. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Hey, here. Go. Don't close your eyes. Wake up. Come on, go get something. This isn't gonna give me enough.
He did take his shirt off and throw it towards me.
Hey, so much here.
Scott had a noble reaction. He really was trying to do what he could to undo what he'd just done.
He's not dancing with joy that he has shot his enemy. That certainly speaks volumes about Mr. Sneed's intent.
Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could possibly imagine. Money, pride, a moment of desperation that turns a living room into a tomb. You look at a person and you think you know them, but you never really know what is festering behind those eyes until the clock runs out. My, you have to be kidding me. It was February 4th, 1991, a crisp day in LaGrange, Georgia, a place where everybody knows everybody, and if you do not know them, you know their business. Margaret Abernathy was the matriarch, a woman who built an empire out of car dealerships and community spirit. She was the kind of woman who kept the town moving, a pillar of stability. But pillars can crumble, and sometimes they are pushed. When we arrived at that house, it felt wrong. It smelled like a lie. Priscilla Matula, the daughter, the golden child, was the one who called it in. She said she found her mother on the bathroom floor, bleeding, a victim of a home invasion. A classic tragedy, right? Wrong. I tell you, a crime scene has a pulse, and this one was flatlining from the start. You look at the house, you look at the evidence. The forced entry was a joke. A pane of glass broken from the inside to look like it came from the outside. A small, pathetic hole that would not even fit a child's hand. Whoever did this was not a burglar. They were a pretender, an amateur playing at being a criminal mastermind. Margaret had been shot twice. One small caliber round, then another. The first one did not kill her. It only broke her. She had the presence of mind to try to clean her own blood, crawling toward the bathroom, trying to survive. Imagine that. A woman who built a business, a woman who loved her grandchildren, spending her final moments trying to wipe away the mess her own flesh and blood had made. It turns your stomach. Then you start digging into the finances. You pull the threads, and the whole sweater falls apart. Priscilla was in the red, deep red. She was running a kite scheme, robbing Peter to pay Paul, juggling bad checks like a circus act because she could not afford the life she was pretending to lead. Margaret, being the sharp businesswoman she was, had finally smelled a rot. She was at the bank that Saturday, demanding that her daughter be stripped of all access to the family accounts. That was the death warrant. Priscilla knew that by Monday, the house of cards would collapse. She would lose the dealership, the status, the facade of success. So she made a choice, a cold, calculated, wretched choice. She chose the money over the woman who gave her life. We interviewed her, and she gave us enough detail to drown in. She talked about school buses, traffic, long lines at the post office, every mundane, useless detail you could pack into a lie to make it sound like a truth. But she was a bad actress in a play she had written herself. Witnesses put her at the house when she said she was miles away. She tried to coach them later, calling them up, being pushy, trying to rewrite history, like she was editing a ledger. It was pathetic. When we finally put the cuffs on her, she just shut down, wouldn't talk, wouldn't look at us. She had realized the game was over. I have spent a lifetime looking into the faces of people who have done the unthinkable, and the most frightening thing is not the rage. It is the silence. A daughter killing her mother for a balance sheet. It is a level of moral bankruptcy that leaves you cold. The family was shattered. They didn't just lose Margaret. They lost their history, their dinners, their vacations, their very identity. When Priscilla pulled that trigger, she did not just kill her mother, she murdered the entire fabric of that family. I think about Margaret Abernathy often. She was a woman who gave to the town, who filled buckets of vegetables for her neighbors. And she died at the hands of the one person she should have been able to trust most in this world. It is a dark, hollow place, the human heart. And sometimes, if you look long enough, you realize that the most dangerous monsters are not the ones hiding in the shadows, but the ones sitting across the kitchen table. Is there any other aspect of this case, or perhaps another investigation from the archives, that you would like me to analyze for you? Human beings are peculiar creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you can imagine. A slight, a debt, a feeling of being trapped. And they do it with a coldness that would make a reptile shudder. My. You sit there, and you wonder how a man like Fred Brown, a decent man who went to church and taught his students about the world, ends up in a roadside ditch with a footprint on his back. You look at the evidence, you look at the lies, and you realize the truth is usually a lot uglier than the stories people tell themselves to sleep at night. I tell you, Fred Brown was the kind of guy who didn't have an enemy in the world. He was a veteran, an educator, a husband, and a father. He walked through life with his chin up, trying to provide for a family that was drifting into a strange, dark place. Then he comes home from the military. He starts a quiet life in North Carolina, and he thinks he has found a partner for the long haul. But you never really know who is sitting across the breakfast table from you, do you? You have to be kidding me if you think marriage is always what it seems. Patricia Brown was a woman who grew up with nothing and spent her whole life terrified of going back there. She had heart trouble, she had her demons, and she found a bizarre sort of comfort in those exotic birds. 50 or 60 of them, trapped in cages in a living room, squawking away while the life savings of a hard-working man just evaporated into thin air. Fred, he was a good man, he was a patient man. He tried to renovate the house. He tried to keep the peace. But there's only so much a man can take before the cracks show. And the cracks here, they were canyons. When I look at this case, I see a woman who didn't want to live the life she had. She wanted something more, something shinier, and she thought she could just cut away the part of her life that was holding her back. It is the ultimate arrogance. She didn't want to go through the messy, legal, painful process of a divorce. No, that would be too much trouble. She wanted the insurance money. She wanted the life she imagined, and she wanted Fred out of the equation permanently. She turned to her own sister, Sheila, and that man, Leroy Wetzel. Leroy, now, there was a piece of work. A man who looked like he had been dragged through a barbed wire fence and kept a temper that earned him the nickname Short Circuit. He was a man with a rap sheet and a soul that didn't know the value of a life. When Patricia put the bounty on her own husband, she didn't just kill Fred. She invited a nightmare into her own home. She promised $30,000, a price tag she placed on 20 years of marriage. $30,000 to silence a man who was the only reason she had a roof over her head. The night they lured him out to that highway, Fred was doing exactly what he always did, trying to be helpful, trying to be the guy who would stop and assist someone in trouble. He thought he was helping a stranger. Instead, he walked into a trap set by the woman he had promised to love. The audacity of it, making him get out of the car, forcing him to walk toward his own end, and then shooting him while his back was turned. It is a cowardly act by a cowardly man, orchestrated by a woman who had completely lost her grip on humanity. The investigation, it took time. It always does. You start with a family, and you watch them. You watch their eyes, you watch their hands, and you listen to what they don't say. Patricia, she played the part of the grieving widow, but the performance was hollow. There was no grief there, only calculation. And when the walls started closing in, when the letters from that snake Leroy finally surfaced, the truth came crashing down. That letter, sitting in a drawer waiting for a death that was inevitable, was a final nail in her coffin. When Leroy sat in that courtroom, shaking and reenacting the moment he took a man's life, the silence was deafening. You could hear a pin drop. He was a broken man, and she was a cold one. Patricia Brown died in prison, and in the end, her life became exactly what she feared most: small, confined, and stripped of everything she had tried to buy with blood. Fred Brown deserved better. He deserved a long life and a peaceful ending, not a coal ditch inside a highway. It is a sad, sordid business, and it reminds me every single time that you never truly know what is lurking in the heart of the person sleeping next to you. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it that drives a person to trade their soul for a few pieces of silver? It is a question I have asked myself 1,000 times, and I still do not have an answer that makes any sense. The serene facade of the Arlington Vietnamese community was shattered on a quiet June morning in 2012, revealing a darkness that few could have imagined. When the bodies of Long Nguyen and Hong Lee were discovered, hog-tied and suffocated with duct tape inside their own bedroom closet, the investigators were not merely met with a crime scene. They were confronted with the visceral remnants of a nightmare, the brutality of the act, characterized by the methodical silencing of an elderly couple through the agonizing application of 25 feet and 10 feet of tape respectively, spoke of a cold, calculated intent that bypassed simple robbery. For the seasoned homicide detectives who arrived at the scene, the initial visual of the apartment in disarray, coupled with the stage presence of a blue bandana and marijuana, suggested a gang-related hit. Yet, beneath the performative violence lay a far more insidious narrative of psychological entrapment and the exploitation of faith. At the heart of this tragedy was a vulnerable search for spiritual solace. Long and Hong, like many who sought a better life, carried with them the traditions of their homeland, believing in a cosmic balance of fortune and spiritual protection. When their commercial sewing business faltered, they sought help from a Houston-based spiritual advisor named Daphne Wright. What began as a hopeful quest for prosperity soon spiraled into a debt-ridden cycle of fear. Daphne Wright, a woman who wielded her influence like a weapon, had convinced the family that their misfortunes were curses she alone could lift. As the couple poured over $250,000 into her rituals, they became trapped in a web of financial desperation and spiritual coercion. The prosecution would later argue that Daphne, acting as a spiritual predator, grew impatient for her payout. Faced with the reality of an unpayable debt, she orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot, transforming the couple's home into a site of ultimate betrayal. The internal lives of those involved reveal a chilling spectrum of human frailty and malice. For the perpetrators, Willie and Bobby Guillory, the crime was born of desperation and a misguided loyalty. Willie, a teenager at the time, was drawn into the abyss by his uncle, Bobby, who himself was struggling with unemployment and the crushing weight of poverty. In his confessions, Bobby spoke of being scared, of feeling like a pawn in a larger, darker game directed by Daphne. Their participation underscores the tragedy of individuals who, feeling adrift and hungry, allowed their moral compass to be hijacked by the promise of money. Conversely, the role of the son-in-law, Chow Tran, remains a haunting point of contention. While he served as the bridge between the family and the investigator, and eventually secured immunity by testifying against Daphne, the shadow of suspicion never fully dissipated. Whether he was a co-conspirator driven by greed to claim insurance payouts, or a man so thoroughly terrorized by Daphne's psychological manipulation that he felt paralyzed, his narrative remains a complex tapestry of survival and complicity. Daphne Wright's eventual trial laid bare the mechanics of her influence. She was portrayed not as a mere advisor, but as a master of psychological subjugation who used the fear of spiritual repercussions to maintain control over her victims. Though the defense attempted to paint the story of the curse as a convenient myth, the jury saw the gravity of the calculated destruction of 2 lives. When Daphne was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, it provided a measure of justice. Yet it did not quell the lingering discomfort felt by investigators regarding the lack of charges brought against Chow Tran. The case remains a stark warning about the dangers that occur when fear and superstition are exploited, and how, in the pursuit of the American dream, the most intimate bonds of trust can be violently undone by the cold, unyielding hands of greed. Human beings, they are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could possibly imagine. Money, jealousy, a bruised ego. But sometimes they kill because they simply cannot stand the idea of losing control. I have spent a lifetime looking into the eyes of murderers, and I tell you, some of them do not see people. They see objects to be manipulated, and that brings us to the tragedy of Bernie James. My. You look at a man like Bernie, a Marine, a firefighter, a protector of life, and you wonder how he ended up discarded on his own driveway like a piece of trash. It began with a void. Bernie was a good man, a widower left with 3 children under the age of 3. When you lose the love of your life, the world goes cold. Into that coldness walked Patricia James. She had a deep, jagged scar on her face, a physical mark she let define her entire existence. She believed she was deformed, that she was hideous. But Bernie, a man with a heart as big as the outdoors he loved, did not see the scar. He saw a person he thought needed a home. He invited her in. He let her adopt his children. He thought he was building a sanctuary, but he was actually letting a predator into the fold. You have to be kidding me if you think she was ever really interested in being a mother. She was a master of the con. She isolated those children. She used them to scam churches. And she turned a quiet life into a screaming match. Bernie wanted out. He wanted to go home. He wanted to be a father to his children without the shadow of this woman looming over them. And that is exactly when his fate was sealed. She could not handle a third divorce. She could not handle the rejection. On the 24th of March, 1987, Bernie James was murdered. He did not die in that car. No. He was struck, blunt trauma, right side of the head, over the ear, in the bedroom of an apartment belonging to a man named Tim Ott. That is where the blood was. That is where the reality was. When I look at the evidence, I see a woman who orchestrated a puppet show. She created identities. She was an imaginary flight attendant named TJ. She was a woman named Demi. She manipulated a gullible man named Tim Ott, convincing him that Bernie was a child molester, convincing him that the only way to save the day was to take a life. She sat there, cold as ice, trying to spin a yarn about a stranger looking for matches. Then she tried to blame TJ. When that failed, she tried to blame an alternate personality. I have heard every excuse in the book, and let me tell you, when a person closes a door at night, nobody knows what goes on inside, but eventually, the truth always walks through that front door. She was not a victim. She was a parasite. She had Bernie take out a life insurance policy, made sure those children were excluded, and turned the ones who were supposed to love him into accessories to his destruction. Watching her in that courtroom, knowing she had no remorse, no conscience, it makes your skin crawl. You see, the most dangerous people in this world are not the ones who explode in a fit of rage in a bar. They are the ones who sit in your kitchen, drink your coffee, and methodically plan your erasure while you are still breathing. She wanted to own Bernie, and when she realized she could not own him, she made sure no one else could have him either. It is a pathetic, twisted reality. Bernie James was a man who served his country, served his community, and loved his children, only to be betrayed by the very person he thought was his salvation. It is a hard truth to swallow, but I have seen it time and time again. Evil does not always wear a mask. Sometimes it just wears a wedding ring. Announce challenges to test the strength of love and human will. On a fiercely hot day in June of 2018, an unexpected health crisis struck, shattering the gentle rhythm of the house by the lake. On that day, Steve was meticulously tending to his velvet rose bushes out in the garden, sweating profusely beneath the harsh summer sun. Suddenly, he felt the sky spin before his eyes. The world turned upside down. A severe bout of vertigo hit him, accompanied by a twisting nausea in his stomach. He stumbled into the house, clutching his head, his voice weak and faint as he informed Lana about the sharp pain in his ear and the overwhelming discomfort surging through his body. Moments later, his strong body collapsed onto the grassy lawn near the porch. He was continuously ill, entirely losing his clear sense of awareness. Seeing her beloved husband, who was the very embodiment of strength and agility, collapse so weakly, Lana felt her heart constrict. She knew very well that he had a history of suffering from benign vertigo spells, but the severity had never been this frightening. Steve faintly explained to her that he felt absolutely terrible, his head spinning and pounding violently, in a mild state of delirium. He mistakenly believed that he had simply suffered heat stroke from staying out in the garden too long under the brutal weather conditions. Relying on her instincts and her solid professional knowledge as a former medical nurse, Lana quickly regained her composure. She understood that, at this moment, absolute bed rest in a quiet, cool room was the best possible medicine for him. She helped him walk up the stairs, carefully tucked him in with a blanket, and stood guard by his side without moving a single step away. Steve sank into a remarkably deep sleep, so deep that all his senses seemed completely frozen. According to what he would recall much later, from the moment he closed his eyes, time seemed to drift into the void. When he finally gathered enough strength to slightly open his heavy eyelids, 36 long hours had passed. Hearing the news that her brother had suddenly fallen ill, his sister living far away became incredibly panicked and worried. She immediately called her sister-in-law, her voice laden with anxiety, desperately seeking a logical explanation for this bizarre illness. To her, the idea of a man who was always overflowing with vitality, regardless of his age, falling into a state of deep exhaustion and losing awareness for 36 hours was a highly unusual and deeply concerning phenomenon. Over the phone, Lana used her inherently calm, gentle, and warm voice to reassure her sister-in-law. She firmly stated that the situation was entirely under control. She assured her that Steve was stable and that she was closely monitoring every breath and every minor expression he made. Even though he had never experienced such a terrifying health episode before, she maintained her professional confidence, believing that this was simply the consequence of utter exhaustion caused by working and moving at maximum capacity for far too long. Her sincere and professional words managed to soothe a significant portion of the anxiety churning within the younger sister's heart. The sister felt much more at ease knowing that her brother was being cared for by a woman who possessed not only deep love, but also a solid foundation of medical knowledge. Everyone silently agreed that Steve's massive energy reserves and his lifestyle of always operating at full speed had finally forced his body to demand a mandatory strike to get some well-deserved rest. Chapter 6, Awakening in Loving Arms. The days that followed were a long period that tested the endurance and the love of both husband and wife. The house by the lake lost its usual ringing laughter, replaced by the quietness of healing and rest. Lana stood watch by the sickbed. She personally prepared every easily digestible meal, checked his temperature, and wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead. Her eyes were always filled with deep empathy, but remained incredibly resolute. She did not allow herself to break down, because she knew she was his only pillar of support during this trial. Steve lay on the bed, his body weak, completely unable to perform the simplest personal tasks. For a proud man who always loved being independent and taking care of others, this sudden helplessness was a heavy psychological blow. Yet, it was exactly in these moments of profound vulnerability that he truly felt the sacred depth of their marital bond. Every caring gesture, every whispered word of encouragement, and her forgiving eyes that showed no annoyance when cleaning up the messes caused by the illness, everything became deeply engraved into his soul. There were times when he woke up in the middle of the night. The dim light of the nightstand lamp cast a soft glow on his wife's face, which looked tired and worn from lack of sleep. Looking at her, a profound sense of tender love surged in his heart. He realized that no matter how powerful a businessman he was out in the world, no matter how much wealth he held in his hands, when facing the fragile line of health and mortality, the only thing that truly saved him, the only thing holding eternal value, was the small woman nodding off by the edge of his bed. Her love was not loud. It was not dazzlingly flashy. It was enduring, resilient, and refreshing, like a cool stream washing over his soul. Family and friends also continuously sent their regards, nourishing gifts, and the most sincere prayers to him. Any initial panic or excessive worry completely vanished in the face of the unconditionally devoted care provided by his faithful wife. Sickness, instead of being a tragic sentence, became a purifying fire, refining their family bonds and making their marital love even more brilliant and solid. Fueled by his own fierce will to live, combined with proper medical care, and, most importantly, the boundless love of his wife, a true miracle occurred. Steve gradually regained his full awareness. The dizzy spells reduced in both frequency and intensity. His pale complexion was slowly replaced by a healthy, rosy glow. He started to be able to sit up on his own, taking his very first steps after a long series of days chained to the bed. The day he managed to walk out his room independently, standing before the large window looking out at the sunlit, sparkling lake, he felt as though he had been reborn. He turned around to look at his wife, standing behind him. Her eyes were brimming with tears, but her lips held a radiant smile. He opened his arms wide, fully embracing her small body, a tight hug that substituted for thousands of the deepest words of gratitude. From that exact second, he silently promised himself that for the entire second half of his life, He would live not only for his own passions, but to repay the immense dedication of this wonderful woman. Chapter 7. The Symphony of Life. Just 2 weeks after the greatest storm of their lives, it seemed that Lana's dedicated treatment methods and boundless love had produced a miraculous effect. Steve recovered spectacularly, quickly regaining his brilliant energy as if the crisis had never happened. A fierce vitality rose within him, urging him to do something truly special to celebrate his own revival, while simultaneously expressing his gratitude to everyone who had stood by his side during the tempest. And there was nothing more wonderful than throwing a grand celebration the 4th of July, right on the grounds of their memory-filled house by the lake. The party that day exploded with joy and perfection, exactly like every other event he had ever hosted. He appeared radiant, hugging and kissing everyone. His hearty laughter and his familiar, warm, enthusiastic personality had fully returned. The crisp air of the summer evening blended perfectly with the buzzing sounds of cheerful conversation, the delicious scent of grilled food, and the popping clinks of sparkling wine glasses, creating a flawless portrait of absolute happiness. The music began to play, carrying lively, upbeat melodies. Never one to miss an opportunity. Steve immediately stepped forward, took his wife's hand, and pulled her right to the middle of the grass. The two merged into a skillful, passionate dance. Seeing that beautiful image, the people around them could not sit still. They followed suit, stepping onto the makeshift dance floor, sharing the same rhythm, all blending into a magnificent dance to celebrate life. Watching her strong, robust brother hold his wife tightly and give her a long, passionate kiss amidst the applause of the crowd, his youngest sister silently shed tears of pure happiness. She firmly believed that their love was the most sincere, original, and deep love possible. That love had conquered illness, overcoming the harshest trials of time and circumstance. When the night sky lit up with colorful bursts of fireworks, Steve stepped onto a slightly raised platform, asking everyone for a moment of silence. Using his warm voice, which occasionally choked with emotion, he sent his deepest thanks to all his friends, his family, and everyone who had worried about him. Most especially, his gaze fixed upon his wife, who was standing below, smiling gently. He called her his guardian angel, the most valuable miracle medicine that no billionaire could ever purchase with mere money. He declared that all wealth and all business success became utterly meaningless without good health and without a warm embrace to return to. Everything in the little house by the lake returned to its peaceful, bright orbit, and now, absolutely no one in the family held even the tiniest doubt that the couple continued to enjoy a profoundly peaceful, long, and happy life together. Having weathered the turbulent storms, they understood, respected, and loved each other even more. The life of the great businessman had turned toward a beautiful new direction. It was no longer about conquering endless material peaks, but rather a journey to cultivate peace within the soul, to spread love, and to inspire a positive, optimistic attitude toward life for absolutely everyone. The story closes with the image of the husband and wife sitting closely together on lounge chairs on their porch, quietly watching the still lake water sparkling under the moonlight. Their love, having transcended all boundaries, proved a simple yet profoundly deep truth. Wherever there is sincere love, there is eternal life. Forgiveness, tolerance, and absolute kindness are the brightest lights that guide humanity, chasing away all darkness and bringing ultimate healing and immortal hope to the world. This is a story of a successful and generous businessman who meets a nurse with a heart as big as his own. She struck his family as being very quiet, but very sweet and very nice. He falls head over heels, unable to hide the feelings he had for her. He was very much in love with her. But when a mysterious sickness consumes their marriage, his family just knew that there was something profoundly wrong. They realized that money is no protection, and this was not a natural departure. Welcome to a celebration of life, family, and the enduring power of truth. The story begins on March 10th, 2007, in the sunny, vibrant city of Miami. It is a big day for a beautiful bride named Rosemary Clayton and her entire family. She is finally marrying her great love, William Leslie. Walking her down the aisle is her oldest brother, 52-year-old Steve Clayton. He beams with immense pride. 11 months prior to her wedding, they lost their beloved father. Rosemary had asked her brother if he would step in. Naturally, there were a lot of tears. She could not imagine anybody else standing in place for their father. When the minister asks who gives this woman to be married to this man, Steve speaks up with a steady, heartfelt voice, saying he does so in the memory of their father. It is a deeply sentimental moment for everyone gathered at something so special, a space where their father is not physically present, but is felt in every beat of their hearts. With their father having passed away, Rosemary's older brother Steve is now the head of the family. And even though he has never had children of his own, he has always been a father figure to his siblings. When their father and mother were married, Steve was just about 2 or 3 years old. He had 4 younger sisters, and Rosemary is the youngest. He was 10 years older than her. So there really was not a single moment when Steve was not a guiding light in her life. Steve was her big brother, and he was her absolute hero. He was everything a little girl would want in an older sibling. He played football, he wrestled in high school, and his strength and protective nature made him larger than life for her. After graduating high school, Steve continues his education and graduates from college with a degree in finance. His natural intellect and drive quickly help him mature into a shrewd, highly capable businessman. Together with a trusted partner, Steve started a company called Physical Therapy Resources. Through sheer dedication, that small enterprise eventually became a massive national company, boasting physical therapy centers located all over the country. He was incredibly successful and eventually sold his interest in his business. Basically, from that point onward, he was retired. His lifelong goal was to retire at the age of 40. He only missed it by 1 single year, retiring proudly when he was 41. Selling his business completely frees up Steve to do whatever he wants. And what he wants to do, more than anything else in the world, is to give back to his community. He dedicated himself to mentoring a massive group of young men, helping them start their own businesses, or simply helping them find out what direction they wanted their lives to go. Steve was extremely generous, not only with his financial resources, but more importantly, with his time. And Steve always, without fail, has time for his family. Rosemary often films him as Steve affectionately teases their relatives. His humor is something truly special. Their father was not known for being particularly funny. He was a much more serious man. But Steve brings light and laughter wherever he goes. When his sister Rosemary gets married, it is Steve's incredible good humor that makes him the absolute life and soul of the occasion. He is always the first person to stand up and give a toast at any gathering. His words are always spoken without notes, entirely ad-libbed directly from his heart. During his toast, he admits that he uses his humor as a way of shying away from the deeply emotional stuff. He looks at William and thanks him profoundly for making his sister so incredibly happy. Steve is never one to hide his true emotions. He tells the room that before their father passed away, he told Steve to take care of his sisters, to honor their family, and that he loved them all very much. After wiping away a stray tear, Steve regains his joyful composure, praising the newlyweds as great companions and perfect partners, noting he has never seen his sister happier. After the speeches, Steve steps up for the traditional father and daughter dance. He comes up and they get ready to dance. But right before the music begins to play, they share a very powerful, unforgettable moment. A surprise audio recording of their dearly departed father is played over the speakers. In the recording, their father says that the absolute best moment of his day was when his little girl would climb onto his knee and say that she loved him. He says he misses those days and that he loves her too. On that day, Steve had so many vital duties. He was standing in for their dad. He was the best man. He was the main entertainment. He was the person who kept everyone calm. And he was the one who kept everyone laughing. He was an absolute natural at bringing people together. Despite his massive professional success and his close, loving network of family and wonderful friends, Steve's own romantic life has been somewhat rocky over the years. He continually looked for a partner who was as focused, determined, loving, and caring as he was. And that is always a very tall order to fill. Now 52 years old, his family figures it will take a very special, unique person to sweep him off his feet. Steve was always searching for somebody on a level he could truly connect with emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. 3 years later, that is exactly what appears to happen. In late 2009, Steve decides to leave his home state of Florida for a refreshing change of pace in the beautiful state of North Carolina. He really loved being physical. He loved walking, he loved hiking, and he loved absolutely anything to do with being outdoors in the fresh air. So when he moved from the flatlands of South Florida to the rolling hills of North Carolina, he had the wonderful opportunity to be outdoors a lot more. Within just a few short months of his move, Steve excitedly announces to his family that he has met someone very special. He seems to have a radiant glow about him that he had been missing for quite a little while, and he is bubbling with excitement. Her name is Lana Walsh. She is 12 years his junior, and she is a medical nurse who grew up in the state of Oklahoma. She strikes his family as being very sweet. She is noticeably quiet, but very pleasant. This quietness stands out quite a bit, because Steve is definitely not a quiet person. Steve's personality is gigantic and room-filling, while she is much more like a gentle wallflower. Despite their obvious differences in personality, Steve is absolutely sure she is the one he has been waiting for. They are very affectionate with each other, constantly walking arm in arm. Steve is always hugging her, squeezing her hand and kissing her cheek. His family feels immensely happy for their brother. They decide that naturally, anybody that he loved so deeply, they were going to embrace with wide open arms. It is not a long time before Steve asks Lana to move in with him. After they got to know each other quite a bit more, Steve persuaded her to come live with him in the bustling city of Charlotte. Steve has always been very convincing when he wants something. Soon, they add some new, joyful additions to their growing family. The very first dog that Steve and Lana get is named Guinness, an elegant Italian greyhound. They both absolutely love the breed, and so they quickly decided that they wanted another one. The second dog is named Sadie. With Lana, Steve finally feels he has found his missing puzzle piece in life. Steve always has wonderful, glowing things to say about her. He affectionately refers to her as his Lana Sue. He simply cannot hide the deep feelings he has for her. He is very much in love with her. His siblings feel that Steve has found himself wonderfully well grounded with Lana. They feel like Steve has finally found a certain, enduring sense of peace with her. Steve Clayton came to North Carolina for a fresh change from his old life and ended up finding a whole new, beautiful future. When Steve Clayton danced with his sister at her beautiful wedding, he dreamed of one day finding his own special someone. And now, 6 years later, he is about to marry the love of his life, a Veterans Affairs nurse named Lana Walsh. It is a lovely, crisp day in November 2013. Many family members and friends had traveled all the way to North Carolina just to be there and enjoy that spectacular day with him. And he made it very special for every single guest. Lana and Steve's wedding takes place right at their lovely house in Charlotte. It is such a beautiful, intimate event. Everyone in attendance could just see the love absolutely beaming from both of them. Soon after tying the knot, the happy couple decide to relocate and move into what they consider their forever home, located just over the border in South Carolina, resting peacefully on the scenic banks of Lake Wylie. It looks exactly like something printed on a holiday postcard. It is a gorgeous ocean blue home sitting on a breathtaking piece of lakefront property. It is remarkably lovely. The couple enthusiastically sets about refurbishing their new home, decorating it carefully with Steve's massive collection of fine artworks and historical antiques. Steve was the kind of person for whom objects were very deeply personal. He was extremely proud of his treasured possessions. as they were all unique and carried a special story. The move allows the couple to fully indulge in their shared love of nature. If there was ever something fun and outdoorsy to do in the community, Steve was always going to be the very first one there, and he was always incredibly gung-ho about it. Their relocation to South Carolina also means the pair are much closer to Steve's extended family. A young man who married Steve's niece in 2010 officially became his nephew, and they spent a great deal of time together. The younger relatives hang out with Steve and Lana a lot once they move up there. They frequently go out to dinner with them. They attend live music concerts together, and they make sure to go to special community events for every single holiday. They're also just a 30-minute drive away from Lana's own son and her young grandchildren, and the pair absolutely never say no to a bit of joyous babysitting. Steve always had a magical way with children, because Steve has always been a pure child at heart. He is exactly the kind of guy who happily gets down on the floor and plays endlessly with the kids, singing songs like Pop Goes the Weasel, and with the kids around the house. There's absolutely never a dull or quiet moment in the Clayton household. Lana often films Steve as he attempts to hilariously describe the rules of the limbo game while her twin granddaughters watch him with mild amusement. He bends down low, explaining that there is a stick, and he has to go under the stick, and he has to get real low to get under it. He enthusiastically tells them it is a fun game and a dance, demanding they tell him how to act it out. Lana is highly tickled by performance, but the young twins are far more interested in eating their sweet ice cream. Steve enjoyed playing all different kinds of games, whether it was a strategic game of Scrabble or even a silly, simple Child-Us game with plastic spinners and handles. He was a huge, lovable teddy bear. The children absolutely loved to play with him, and he always had kids happily hanging on his arms and legs. Lana is always totally game for some fun, too, cheering him on and joining in the boisterous laughter. 5 blissful years into their marriage, Steve and Lana appear to be thriving wonderfully. But in June 2018, Steve suddenly falls quite ill. He says he feels extremely dizzy, complaining of severe vertigo. He says that his ear hurts terribly and that he feels deeply nauseous. He starts feeling sick while working out in the yard. Lana feels very bad for him, knowing that he had experienced minor issues with vertigo prior to this incident. He tells his family he had been very ill and did not know exactly what was wrong. He just remembers that he was working out in the garden, tending to the plants, and he started to feel unusually dizzy with a pounding headache. He initially thought that maybe he had gotten a bad case of sunstroke. As a trained medical nurse, Lana thinks the absolute best thing for Steve is total bed rest. Steve later tells his family that he remembered laying down in his bed, and the very next time he opened his eyes, an entire 36 hours had passed by. Deeply worried about this strange occurrence, Rosemary calls Lana to see if she can explain Steve's mystery illness. Rosemary asks her what she thought was going on, because it is very odd for any healthy person of any age to completely lose 36 hours of time. Lana calmly assures her that he was fine, and that she was watching him closely, making sure he was okay, though he has never been ill quite like this before in his life. Lana theorizes that Steve is just severely exhausted from his active lifestyle. Rosemary feels reassured knowing that Lana is there to take care of him in any way that she could, especially with her extensive professional knowledge as a nurse. It seems to the family that Steve's larger-than-life energy and constant activity are finally starting to catch up with him. But just 2 short weeks later, it appears Lana's home treatment has worked miracles. Steve is back to his vibrant, old self, happily throwing a massive celebration party for the 4th of July. That summer party was just as incredibly great as every other party the family had been to at their beautiful home. Steve was his normal, highly affectionate self, and everybody had a truly magnificent time. Guests watched Steve dancing joyfully with Lana as they celebrate in high style. He grabs Lana right away, and the rest of the family just kind of follows suit and all join in the dancing. Relatives remember watching them hug tightly and him kissing her tenderly. looking like a couple who were completely and utterly in love. Things appeared to be perfect at the Clayton home, and no one there doubts for a second that Lana and Steva's lives are going to be happy, healthy, and long. On July 21st, 2018, a distressing call comes into the York County Emergency Services dispatcher. Police units arrive quickly on the scene. The body camera footage recorded by the responding officer, Sergeant Day, captures what they discover upon arrival. As they walk through the grand front door, there is Steve, resting right at the bottom of the majestic grand staircase. And very unfortunately, at that point, he has passed away. The officers can hear someone whispering and talking in low, distressed voices. That is because Lana Clayton is sitting just around the corner, looking distraught and crying heavily. The officers kindly lower their voices, so they do not say anything that is further disturbing to her in her time of profound grief. Sergeant Day needs to talk gently with Steve's U.S. wife, Lana, to find out what exactly has happened. He introduces himself, saying he will be there for just a little while until the county coroner arrives to transport the departed. Lana tells Sergeant Day that Steve had been suffering from severe dizziness for 2 straight days. She explains that Stephen had been very ill with his vertigo again. She says she had found him on Thursday morning when he stood up, got extremely dizzy, and collapsed. She recounts that she had to carefully help him upstairs to their bedroom, and since that specific time, he had not been back downstairs at all. When the officer asks if she had been working outside, she nods, saying she was mowing the green lawn real quick. And when she came back inside the house, she found he had fallen down the stairs. She cries, apologizing, saying she bravely tried to slide a soft blanket underneath him to comfort him, but she could not revive him. Despite her extensive medical training, Lana was completely unable to render effective aid to Steve. She explains to the officers that she panicked because she knew she could not do anything further to help him medically, so she immediately ran outside when she heard a loud motorcycle coming by, desperately waving the driver down to ask them to call emergency services. Steve's nephew, a young man named Nick, is actually on duty working as a dedicated police officer when he receives the devastating news. His mother called him crying, and she said that Uncle Steve had died. He was in total disbelief. He knew it was real, but it simply did not fully sink into his mind. He rushed down to the lake house as quickly as he possibly could. He remembers the whole time driving. The only words going through his head were questioning how and why this could happen. When the phone rang for Rosemary, who was living 700 miles away, and she heard her nephew say that Uncle Steve had died, she thought it was completely impossible. How could her great protector be gone? She simply could not believe it. With Rosemary so far away, Nick and the local family members immediately rally around Lana to offer their unwavering support. Nick felt awful because he knew how deeply she loved Uncle Steve. He kept thinking that while he was terribly upset, he could not even begin to imagine what she was going through, having to find her beloved husband on the ground like that. Lana tearfully tells the family she fears Steve's severe vertigo could have caused a tragic fall down the grand stairs. She keeps repeating that she thinks he fell down the stairs, that it is horrible, and she hopes he did not suffer. Sergeant Day, being a thorough professional, carefully checks for any signs that Steve may have been attacked or involved in a struggle. To his trained eye, this looked like it was very probably a sad but natural death, but he knows he must follow protocol. So Sergeant Day proceeds to go upstairs to look and see what might have happened prior to the fall. Walking to the massive labyrinth-like house was a little unnerving, but he finds nothing amiss. He notes that there does not appear to be any sign of a physical struggle. There are absolutely no other signs of someone else being up there or having done something harmful to him. There is nothing significant at all. In the large master bedroom, the bed sheet is all rumpled up, but there is nothing to suggest Steve had any kind of violent struggle. It heavily looks as if the cause of death will not be a mystery for the medical coroner. Upon arrival, the coroner cannot see any contusions, scrapes, or bruises. There is nothing on his body that suggests Steve actually fell down the hard wooden staircase. It looks much more as though Steve managed to make it down to the very bottom of the stairs safely, and then suddenly collapsed. The coroner gently suggests that she believes he likely had a massive heart attack. When asked what leads her to that medical opinion, she explains that the specific coloration of his face and a distinct blueness that went straight across the top of his chest in a line is oftentimes an indication of a cardiac event. Back in the quiet living room, Sergeant Day gently tells Lana what the authorities think has happened. He explains that when he walked to the top of the stairs, he noticed that the soft carpet on the staircase had a specific direction to the fibers, allowing him to see clear footprints. He believes Steve may have safely come to the bottom of the staircase before passing. He tells Lana not to dwell on the scary thought of the staircase, knowing that is a very hard image for a grieving widow to hold in her mind. He offers comforting words, suggesting that perhaps this was simply the day that the heavens chose to call him home. While Lana digests the overwhelming news, Nick and his family step up to help with cleaning up the house. They deeply wanted to make the big house still comfortable enough for her, knowing she was going to be physically and emotionally exhausted and had to spend a lonely night there. But they are profoundly shocked at what they eventually find in the master bedroom. When they go upstairs to tidy up, they immediately notice a terribly strong smell. It is the undeniable smell of human waste. They look around the room and discover huge discoloration spots right in the middle of the expensive mattress. The soiled mattress immediately raises some very serious questions in their minds. They realize that the massive amount of liquid it would take to soak completely through a thick mattress meant Steve had been confined to that bed, unable to move, for several days. They immediately decide they have to get this ruined mattress out of the room, so Lana can sleep. They can barely pick it up because it is extremely heavy. They manage to take the mattress and carefully remove it from the house. When Rosemary finally manages to talk with Lana on the phone later that evening, she gently asks her how Steve got so incredibly ill. Lana replies that he had not been feeling well for a few days. Rosemary asks why she did not call somebody, why she did not let the family know so they could help. Lana calmly replies that he was starting to feel much better, so there was no need to worry them. She also mentions that Steve never called anyone himself because he had been sleeping very heavily and had misplaced his mobile cell phone a full week earlier. Lana claimed that the phone had been missing for several days. This detail strikes Rosemary as profoundly wrong. Her brother was never, ever without his phone. He was a businessman who was always attached to his communication device. It went absolutely everywhere with him. It was at that exact point where Rosemary really felt like something very unusual and perhaps sinister was going on, even though she did not know what it was. Shortly after, Steve's sister asked his widow about his legal will. Steve and Rosemary had talked many times over the years about what it was that he specifically wanted to do when his time came. He had clearly stated he wanted to be buried in that beautiful, peaceful cemetery down in Fort Lauderdale. But when Rosemary asks Lana about the documents, Lana states firmly that there is no will at all. Furthermore, Lana has already made permanent arrangements. Steve is scheduled to be quickly cremated, and she is already planning a rapid memorial service. On August 4th, 2018, Lana holds a memorial service for Steve at their beautiful lakefront home. It is a highly emotional gathering. Everybody there felt such an incredibly deep, loving connection to Steve. It was very hard for anyone to stay completely calm, even though it was supposed to be a joyous celebration of his magnificent life. They just could not help but feel the deep, deep sorrow radiating from everybody present. The speakers reminded guests that if there is any space where it is perfectly okay to be sad and to cry a little bit, this is that time. They celebrate a life exceptionally well lived while honoring their sadness. At the memorial, Rosemary and the rest of the family are quite surprised to find that Lana has already started to completely clear out Steve's personal belongings. She had already begun taking all of his nice clothes and all of his personal items, claiming she had donated them all to the local Veterans Affairs charity. Rosemary is almost knocked off her feet to see the massive number of empty wooden hangers hanging silently in that giant closet, with not a single stitch of his clothing remaining. The family also notices a lot of expensive watches are missing, a lot of fine jewelry is missing, and even his treasured wedding ring is mysteriously missing. Lana's adamant claims about Steve not having a legal will raises even further deeper suspicions among the tight-knit family. That is something that Steve had discussed with many people, emphasizing how important it was to make sure that everything in life was in perfect order. There is absolutely no logical sense in her brother, a former accountant and a person who is meticulously careful with his finances, not having a legally binding will prepared. The family collectively feels like something is just not adding up correctly. They are all on the same page. They know something unusual is going on behind the scenes. And that was when the family collectively decided to call the county medical examiner's office and respectfully plead with them to please perform a full autopsy. They asked that, at the very least, if the office is not going to do a full procedure, to please perform a comprehensive toxicology test. Thankfully, the authorities agreed to their earnest request. A dedicated detective named Motes from the York County Sheriff's Office is also officially notified of the family as growing suspicions regarding Steve's sudden passing. When the initial autopsy report comes in, it lists standard signs of heart disease and points to death by natural causes, exactly as the coroner first suspected. However, the authorities have to wait patiently for the full toxicologist's report to come back from the state laboratory to finally make an actual, legally binding finding. It will take a few long, agonizing weeks before those detailed results arrive. The family waits on pins and needles for the absolute truth to finally come out. They just know in their hearts that there was something very wrong. When the final toxicology report on Steve Clayton's blood comes back, the results are nothing short of shocking. The blood work shows clear traces of several powerful sedatives, including medical marijuana, strong sleeping medications, and allergy antihistamines. But that is not all. The biggest, most alarming shock in the entire toxicology results is the massive presence of a chemical compound called tetrahydrozoline. It is the primary active ingredient commonly found in standard over-the-counter eye drops. This specific chemical is absolutely never meant to be ingested internally by a human being. Given in small accidental doses, it makes a person feel very ill, causing severe nausea, extreme dizziness, and eventually causing them to pass out. But in large, concentrated quantities, it is incredibly deadly. It systematically shuts the central nervous system down and will cause fatal organ failure. The medical detectives learn from the experts that this chemical can severely limit the vital blood supply to major organs, ultimately leading directly to an induced heart attack. When the detectives carefully review the original body camera footage from the bedroom, they spot a tiny bottle of eye drops resting high up on the very top of a tall wooden dresser, located far away from the soil bed. That is a place where a gravely ill man, who was entirely too weak to even walk to a bathroom, could absolutely not get up to reach. Now it is very clear to the trained investigators, this is not a natural death. Detective Motes knows he needs to have a very serious talk with Lana Clayton. 5 weeks after the sudden, tragic death of her husband, Lana Clayton is formally questioned by the detectives in a quiet interview room. They begin gently, treating her like a helpful witness. The detectives simply state they want to know a little more about the various medications found in Steve's blood system. Lana confidently lists several items, saying he took standard allergy pills and other common remedies. It is a long list, but there is absolutely no mention of the eye drop chemical. The substance that ended Steve's life is colorless, it is completely odorless, and it is entirely tasteless. This makes it the perfect, invisible tool to give to someone if a person wants to secretly poison them through their food or drink. The level of the chemical in Steve's blood was so exceptionally high that it was abundantly clear to the medical scientists that it was the direct cause of his death. It is a lethal level, no matter what way anyone tries to look at it. The detectives press on with their questioning. They calmly inform Lana that, somehow or another, there was a very large amount of eye drop fluid found in his system, and that is what they are trying to get to the bottom of. Lana suddenly stammers, claiming she knows he sometimes puts the eye drops in his morning coffee, stating he puts it in there every day. When asked what she knows about the effects of drinking it, she nervously replies that she knows it makes a person have severe digestive issues. There are basically two distinct theories that the police are now heavily considering. One, he was intentionally poisoned and there is malicious foul play involved. Two, he ingested it completely on his own, whether it was intentional or bizarre, unintentional accident. But as the police deeply probe Steve and Lana's marital relationship, her story begins to shift dramatically. When asked how her life has been, she says that sometimes they would have fun, but then sometimes she would be walking on eggshells. She claims she was on eggshells all the time. Lana attempts to claim that Steve had a secret, dark side. She says he could be really nasty and verbally abusive, calling her terrible names. She claims his anger built up over time, and she would try to just stay out of his way to avoid him exploding in rage. After Lana's initial interview concludes, the detectives immediately order a comprehensive search of the beautiful lakefront house. They are meticulously looking for drinking cups or glass tumblers that might have a chemical residue left in them. They are looking for absolutely anything they can find that helps them definitively determine what could have caused this tragedy, including any documents or diaries that would show true trouble in the marriage. During that exact same time, feeling the pressure mounting, Lana tells a local officer that she urgently wants to speak again with Detective Motes. Detective Motes carefully records what Lana has to voluntarily say. She cries, claiming she had told him a little bit about Stephen, but that his behavior was supposedly much worse than what she originally stated. She weaves a tale of escalating arguments. Then she says that after he had that initial incident, which she said was vertigo, she was taking care of him, but she was secretly still very angry at him. She claims a girlfriend at her medical workplace had once told her that if you want to get even with somebody, you put eye drops in their drink, and it will cause severe stomach upset. It is right then that Lana drops a massive, undeniable confession. She says that when she saw that bottle of eye drops sitting on the table, a dark thought just came to her, and she just took it and squirted it. When the detective calmly asks what she squirted it into, she replies that she put it into his drinking water. The detective asks about the exact amount, and she admits she thinks she put the entire bottle in. She says she squeezed it hard. She just saw it there, and she just did it. She then tearfully asks the detective what will happen if she calls his death with the drops. The detective asks if there is anything else she wants to add to get it all off her chest, but she says that is everything. It is a completely damning confession, but the detectives cannot arrest Lana just yet, as they must follow strict legal protocols. After Lana confessed, the police calmly left the building. They needed to get all their legal ducks in a row as far as what specific charges would be presented to the judge, and they planned to come back the very next day to officially arrest Lana Clayton. But early that next morning, the police get a frantic call from one of Lana's close neighbors. They have found notes indicating severe distress. The neighbor is terrified that Lana has harmed herself. She knew the police were coming back the next day, and she knew they would have official warrants for her arrest. She turned the kitchen gas stove on, went upstairs to her bedroom, and took a large quantity of pills to escape justice. Emergency responders find her unconscious in her bed. She is swiftly taken into the local hospital, where she is medically treated, stabilized, and ultimately released. Upon her release from the medical facility, she is immediately arrested and placed in handcuffs on the severe charges of causing the passing of another person and tampering with food items. The extended family is quickly informed of Lana's stunning arrest. A detective from the York County Department called Nick and said he wanted to bring him up to speed, informing him that Lana had officially confessed. Nick was driving and had to pull his vehicle over the side of the road right away. The news hit him like a heavy ton of bricks. He felt completely stunned when he called Rosemary. She answered the phone and began weeping uncontrollably upon hearing the final, terrible truth. On January 16, 2020, after a lengthy legal process, Lana accepted a formal plea deal She admits legal guilt on the serious charges of voluntary manslaughter and tampering with a drug or food product. During the proceedings, she insists she only relied on knowledge she saw in fictional movies, claiming she only wanted to cause him temporary discomfort and absolutely never intended for Steve to pass away. She claimed she just wanted revenge for his supposed poor behavior. But Steve's lifelong friends and his devoted family do not buy her story for a single second. They know Steve was never an unkind person. They feel she is merely trying to unfairly assassinate Steve's good character to save herself. Numerous other people who knew him well, including the many young men whom he had generously mentored over the decades, all proudly came forward to testify that he was a wonderfully kind person. They declared there was absolutely no cruelty of any sort within Stephen. The prosecutors assert she was simply trying to do whatever she could to save herself from a very long sentence in prison and possibly avoid the ultimate legal penalty. Everyone who truly knew him knew he was a profoundly gentle soul, completely incapable of harming someone. Based on the detailed scientific evidence in the toxicology report, the sharp prosecutors believe Steve suffered silently for 3 full days. Lana had told the police that the fatal dose was given on Thursday morning. But the legal team knows as a matter of absolute scientific fact, straight from the toxicologist, that her timeline is biologically impossible. The amount in his system was so massive that he would pass away on Thursday morning if she had given it all to him at once. For him to have been incapacitated for all of that time, it heavily indicates that she continually gave him the toxic medication throughout those days, poisoning him little by little. And Lana, a fully trained medical nurse, never once sought to call for professional help. The prosecutors point out that Stephen would never have willingly stayed in a ruined, soiled bed. He was known to be an incredibly neat and clean person. He would not have stood for such a thing if he had the physical strength to prevent it. He was made entirely too weak to get up and move. There was no mobile phone left in the room, and there was no landline telephone, so he could not call somebody for rescue. This put him in a terrible situation, isolated with no way to get help. And so finally, knowing he was trapped, she squeezed the rest of the bottle into his water, had him drink it, and then casually went outside to mow the green grass in the sunshine, so she did not have to watch the final moments. Instead of acting as a nurse who heals and helps, she acted with unimaginable coldness. Ultimately, 53-year-old Lana Clayton is sentenced by the judge to serve 25 years in state prison. While she never publicly admitted that she fully intended to end his life, the cold, hard facts of scientific evidence show otherwise. For Steve's grieving family, they feel like there is no earthly penalty that would have been great enough to balance the scales of justice. They view the methodical planning, the days of isolation, and the incredibly elaborate charade she put on for the family and police as the heartbreaking actions of a truly lost soul. Yet, amidst a profound sorrow, they realize how incredibly close the truth came to being buried forever. There almost was not a medical autopsy performed. If the family had not pushed so hard, and if there had not been an autopsy, the official ruling of the coroner would have permanently been that this was a natural cardiac episode. The truth is, the perpetrator brought her own downfall upon herself. Had she simply acted the part of the quiet, gentle widow, patiently grieving the loss of her husband without rushing to erase his memory and empty his closets, no one would have ever had any concrete suspicion whatsoever. Although Lana continuously insisted Steve's passing was a tragic accident-born frustration, his loyal family and the legal prosecution firmly believe it was a highly deliberate, calculated act motivated purely by immense financial gain. One obvious and glaring motive presented to the court is Steve's substantial personal wealth. Without a legally recognized will in the state of South Carolina, every single asset automatically goes directly to the surviving spouse. So the perpetrator would know that if Steve is gone, she gets to keep absolutely everything he worked his entire life to build. If somebody wanted to do something malicious like this for greed, all they had to do was secretly get rid of the legal documents, and everything would belong to them alone. Now, With justice served, the loving family tries their best to heal and gently move on without Steve physically present in their daily lives. They gather together to share wonderful memories and watch old videotapes. They listen to his booming, joyful voice on the recordings. They miss hearing his warm greetings. They deeply miss his over-the-top, magnificent personality, that big, boisterous, gregarious character that would enter a quiet room and just happily take over everything with light and love. Steve was a truly amazing person who dedicated his life to lifting others up. It has been incredibly difficult for them not having a steady guidance around. The thing they all say they miss the absolute most about Steve is his roaring, infectious laughter and his unique, beautiful ability to light up any room he walked into. While he was unfairly taken from everyone who loved him, the incredible, positive legacy of his immense generosity, his unwavering kindness, and the hundreds of lives he personally touched and improved will continue to shine brightly forever. This is a story of a highly successful and incredibly generous businessman, a man who always greeted the world with a cheerful hello and a radiant smile. He was a man who crossed paths with a quiet nurse, someone he genuinely believed possessed a heart as boundless and forgiving as his own. She struck him as being a deeply reserved individual, yet seemingly very sweet and remarkably kind. The man fell head over heels in love, entirely unable to hide the profound, sweeping emotions he harbored for her. He loved her deeply and completely. However, when a mysterious and sudden sickness began to cast a dark shadow over their marriage, those closest to them sensed that something was terribly amiss. Wealth, they soon learned, offers no true protection against every kind of misfortune. And ultimately, the truth emerged that this was not a natural departure from a world. On a brilliantly sunny day, the 10th of March, 2007, in a beautiful coastal city, a joyous atmosphere enveloped the air. Welcome, everyone, to a gathering that celebrates a union of two wonderful souls. It was a momentous day for the beautiful bride and her entire extended family. She was finally joining her life with the man she loved so dearly. The proud gentleman walking her down the aisle was her eldest brother, a 52-year-old man of immense character. With tender care and bursting pride, he guided his little sister along the flower-strewn path. The bride tearfully recalled the difficult times preceding this joyous occasion, just 11 months prior to her wedding day. Their family had suffered the heartbreaking loss of their beloved father. In her grief, she had turned to her eldest brother and asked if he would step into their father's shoes for the ceremony. It was a decision accompanied by many tears of both sorrow and profound gratitude. She simply could not imagine anyone else standing in that sacred place to honor their father's memory. When the officiant's warm voice asked who gave this woman to be married to this man, the eldest brother answered with quiet strength, stating that he did, in loving memory of their departed father. It was an incredibly moving and meaningful moment to be gathered for an event so special, even though the physical presence of their father was deeply missed. Since their father's passing, this eldest brother had naturally assumed the role of the family patriarch. And although he had never had any biological children of his own, he had always been a flawless father figure to all his younger siblings. When their parents first married, he was merely a toddler, about 2 or 3 years old. He grew up to have 4 younger sisters, with the bride of the day being the youngest of them all. There was a 10-year age gap between him and his youngest sister, meaning there was never a single moment in her entire life when her big brother was not a towering, protective presence. To her, he was the ultimate protector, her personal hero. He was everything a little girl could ever dream of in an older brother. During his youth, he played football and wrestled in high school. Those displays of strength and athletic prowess only made his legend grow larger than life in her adoring eyes. After graduating from high school, he pursued higher education and earned a university degree in finance. As he matured, he quickly blossomed into an exceptionally sharp and astute businessman. Alongside a trusted partner, he founded a company dedicated to physical therapy resources. Through relentless dedication and hard work, That enterprise gradually expanded into a national corporation, boasting a vast network of physical therapy centers across the country. One of his closest friends recalled that they had met through their professional lives, working within the same hospital walls, and from there, a lifelong friendship blossomed. He was an extraordinarily successful man. After many years of tireless dedication, he eventually decided to sell his shares in his thriving business. From that point onward, he essentially entered a period of early retirement. His initial life goal had been to retire by the age of 40. Although he missed that ambitious mark by just 1 year, he successfully achieved his dream when he turned 41. Selling the business completely freed up his schedule, allowing him the absolute liberty to pursue whatever his heart desired. And what his heart desired most was to give back to the world. He devoted his time to becoming a mentor, an inspiring guide to a large group of young men. He assisted them in launching their own startup businesses or provided wise counsel to help them find the right direction for their lives. He was phenomenally generous, not only with financial resources, but also with his most precious asset, his time. Above all else, he always had an infinite amount of time for his cherished family. In the video footage captured during the wedding reception, the bride smiled warmly as she filmed her brother playfully teasing their elderly uncle. It was a highly special dynamic. Their late father had not been a particularly joking man. He was much more serious and stoic. But her brother was entirely different. When a relative humorously asked where all his money came from, he simply threw his head back and laughed with pure joy. And when his youngest sister finally tied the knot, his incredible sense of humor and natural charm made him the absolute life and soul of the celebration. Everyone eagerly anticipated his speech. He was always the first person to stand up and raise a glass for a toast at any gathering. He stepped up to the microphone, his booming, affectionate voice filling the room and instantly bringing smiles to every face. His speeches were always beautifully improvised, genuine, and delivered straight from the heart. He joked that using humor was his personal strategy for avoiding becoming too overwhelmed by his own deep emotions. He looked directly at his new brother-in-law, offering his most sincere gratitude for bringing such immense happiness to his sister, while also sending a heartfelt thank you to their father watching from above. He was never one to easily hide what he felt. He tearfully recounted their father's final wish, a plea to take good care of his youngest sister.